Welcome back to Jamaica Made Me Do It. I'm Christy, and this is my little corner of YouTube where I share all the stories that I uncovered and discovered and experienced through 15 years of traveling around Jamaica. I swear I would be onto something if I started a travel company that specialized in kidnapping the disillusioned. There are people wandering this earth who desperately need to be dragged out of their norm and dropped somewhere totally unexpected, and then reminded that life is meant to be fully experienced, not just observed from a safe distance. This is the story of my first, but not only, successful kidnapping, and it happened on my 30-something trip to Jamaica. On this particular trip, my flight landed pretty late in the evening, and it was too late to make the drive to the South Coast because it's a couple hours. And if you've ever driven in rural Caribbean roads at night, you'll know it's a terrible idea. So I grabbed a room near the airport at the legendary Hotel Gloriana. Y'all know about the Gloriana, right? And my plan was to finish the trip to the South Coast the next morning. So that night I checked in, and then I settled on my veranda at the hotel with a cold rum and coke and just took a deep breath, soaked in that feeling I always get from landing in Jamaica. And then my peaceful rum ritual got interrupted by an older foreign gentleman who wandered over to say hello. It's almost like solo travelers are like heat-seeking drones. We somehow find each other in the wild and assemble through pure instinct. This man's name was Harald, and he was from Norway. And so I invited him to sit down and poured him a cup of rum, and then we just started chatting. As it turns out, Harald was an author, so we had writing in common. He had traveled all over the world, and this was his very first trip to Jamaica, and he hated it. Well, maybe hate is a strong word, but he was definitely not having a good time. Harald had been staying in Montego Bay, and he was completely fed up with the aggressive street hustlers, the inflated tourist prices, and the whole experience overall. I hate when this happens, so I tried explaining to him that this tourist strip in Montego Bay is actually a pretty lame representation of what the whole of Jamaica is really about. And then I casually slipped in that I was leaving in the morning for the south side of the island, where literally nobody bothers anybody down there. And jokingly, I told him he could hitch a ride if he wanted to. We shared some laughs, we finished our drinks, and then we said goodnight and went our separate ways. The next morning, I was up pretty early and anxious to just hit the road. I am a total bush girl at heart, and the sooner I can escape the hustle and hype and touristy traps, the happier I am. I just need to get where it's quiet in Jamaica. I was inside my room and finishing the last few drops of coffee when who should appear on my doorstep? It was Harald, and he took my invitation more seriously than I intended. So there he stood with the clothes on his back, 50 bucks in his pocket, and a ticket to ride the Christie Express. Now, according to the internet, Norwegians are known for being very direct and straightforward. Well, Harald could not have been more Norwegian if he'd shown up wearing a Viking helmet with horns on top. And I was absolutely thrilled. I love showing people sides of Jamaica that most tourists never really venture out to experience. I think the true soul of Jamaica is completely different than the version most visitors get to see from behind resort gates. And so off we went. We had no plan, no itinerary, no clue what Harald was actually getting himself into. The only thing that we knew for sure is that he needed to be back in Montego Bay by the following afternoon. Beyond that, we would just figure it out as we went. And then we left Mo Bay behind in the dust and headed into the hills. For hours, we wound our way through the mountain roads lined with dense greenery and spectacular views and lush trees, and it was beautiful. And along the way, I learned all kinds of things about Harald and his travels and his life in Norway. Eventually, we pulled over at what looked like nothing more than a tiny blue board shop on the side of the road. And we ended up spending a pretty good chunk of time talking with the locals who owned the place. Harald bought an ice cold red stripe from their freezer, and he sat there on island time showing photos of Norway to complete strangers. And it became one of those simple but super beautiful moments where people from opposite sides of the world connect for no reason other than curiosity. I always wonder about moments like that. Do those people remember us the way we remember them? Do they tell stories about the random foreigners who stopped by one afternoon the same way that we tell stories about them? Like here I am telling the story on YouTube. And this happened in like 2016, 2017. Eventually we hit the road again. And as we got closer to Black River, I called one of my friends, Shelly, and I told him that I had just kidnapped a tourist and I needed help showing him a good time. Shelly immediately knew what to do and he put his boat on standby. We were going to take Harald out to sea. And when we finally arrived in Hilltop in Parati, we dropped our bags at the house, grabbed our swimsuits, and then headed straight back out the door. At the beach, I saw that Shelly's boat was still sitting on the sand because he hadn't had a chance to take it down to the water yet. Now, most tourists would probably stand around and watch to see how things are done, but not Harald. Harald jumped right in. And before long, there were 7 Jamaicans and 1 Norwegian sweating their way down the beach, shoving and dragging the boat towards the sea. Once it was finally floating, we all climbed aboard and headed out toward Pelican Bar. If you've never heard of it, Pelican Bar is a tiny wooden bar sitting on stilts out in the middle of the Caribbean Sea. And this is what it looked like back in those days before Hurricane Melissa took it away, and they've since rebuilt it. And somehow, despite bringing almost nothing for his spontaneous overnight adventure, Harald remembered to pack a snorkel. Like, this man was prepared. He had priorities. And the next few hours were pure magic. Harald snorkeled, Shelly and I swam. The sea was beautifully warm that evening, and the sky was fully glowing at dusk. Everything felt peaceful and perfectly suspended in time. And I remember thinking that this old guy who'd been ready to write off Jamaica forever was now having the time of his life. It made me really proud to be representing Jamaica. And meanwhile, Shelly and I were busy demonstrating our highly advanced synchronized swimming skills. Eventually, starvation was taking over. I had realized that neither one of us had eaten since breakfast, since we left Montego Bay. So naturally, I decided that Harald needed another cultural experience. So I took him to my favorite fried chicken spot on Crane Road and introduced him to my favorite bartender. Her name was Lisa. This is the kind of place where conversations and drinks flow so easily and complete strangers become friends by the end of the night. It's an amazing spot to hang out. Does this look like the face of a man having a terrible time in Jamaica? Dinner was fantastic. The stories were even better. We talked about travel and life and meeting people and adventure, and eventually, full of rum and fried chicken, we headed back to the house. It was dark, it was late, and we were tired. So I made up the couch for Harald. There were some extra sheets. I just threw them on the couch and we called it a night. Earlier that day, I had checked the Knutsford Express bus schedule and discovered there was only one charter bus leaving the south side of the island. Just one. It departed at 8:30 in the next morning. So the following day, we got up early, loaded Harald into the car, and headed for the bus stop at Luana's. I helped him board the bus like I was sending my child off to college. And then there I stood, waving goodbye as he began his 2-hour journey back to Montego Bay. I'm pretty sure he was the only guy on that bus wearing yesterday's clothes with a snorkel in his pocket. And just like that, it was over. 2 ships passing in the night. We met, made an unspoken agreement to chase an adventure, and we changed each other's lives for just a day, and then we said goodbye. I've seen movies with less of a plot than the 24 hours I spent with Harald from Norway. I've never spoken to him again, but thanks to Facebook, I know he's still alive and well and still traveling the world because I drop in on his page once in a while just to see what he's doing. And every now and then I find myself wondering whether he's ever told his side of the story. Because somewhere in Norway, there might be a guy telling people about the time a random Canadian woman kidnapped him in Jamaica. And then somehow it ended up becoming the best day of his trip. From day one with all of this, my mission in Jamaica was to always show anyone willing to open their eyes that the island has so much more to offer than what you see on the surface when you get there. And this one was mission accomplished. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Christy. This is Jamaica Made Me Do It. Please like and subscribe and leave comments. I love the comments. I live for comments on my videos. So I will see you next time on Jamaica Made Me Do It.